Good morning, everybody. This is the next episode. It's starting to get kind of interesting. I hope, maybe. Maybe it just sucks. I don't know what it is. But this is the trials and tribulations of doing the Sport Quattro. The next thing is seeing how the differential is in. I looked at it last night after I turned off the camera, and it's fairly well centered. It's not. I mean, I haven't measured it perfectly, but it looks pretty good. I won't do actually cross measurements until I put it on the lift because I don't like doing it on my back. It's just miserable. And all I want to do is just tack in the rear mount face so I can pull the jack out, and then we can start on doing a hub conversion onto the 4000 struts. I'm going to try it one way. I'm not really sure it's going to work. I don't think it will. With a late model hub, it won't work. I'm not sure if they didn't do something different with the early model hubs. Don't really know, but I do have a backup plan. That will work. What we first have to do, we have to cut this subframe. This is where the mounting bolt goes for the center mount for the rear diff. All I'm doing is just hacking the thing off and putting it up there, tack it. We'll jump onto the 4000 Quattro suspension. So let me just finish up my coffee, move the camera, and we'll do this. There we go. There's the mount. We'll probably cut it, and trim it, and box it, and do a whole bunch of other neat stuff to it. But first, let's throw this or tack it in the car, or see where we're going to tack it in the car, and get going to it. Stop dilly-dallying. See, here is the hole for this, and we can't get past this groove right here, but we're pretty close. So what we're going to do is cut this groove out, and it's definitely going to come back to like right here is where it's going to be. So if we cut this out right there, we should be able to slip it on and it'll like box itself in. I don't know if you can see it. I did just a quick marker line right here and right here. Just have to cut this out and this out. Hopefully it'll get up inside there, and then we can, well, I'll probably use some of this actually to box it, but just have to get this off because this is roughly the height. You have to get this passed no matter what. So let's just cut it and see what happens. Well, what's the worst that can happen? See if it works. Ah, sweet! This thing right up into here, I can tack it right here and it'll stay. So that means the diff is in and we can start on the suspension. Yeehaw! Clean that up and give it a quick weld. Now we're getting on to more of the interesting parts and pieces, and I'm going to show you what Audi took from one end and what not, because a lot of the stuff on almost all cars, pretty much there's certain similarities in dimensions. That's the reason why certain parts fit numerous cars, because everybody has, if it's all set up to make one size of rod end, let's just say, well, if you just mix and match, you can have it for one car and have it for another. So what we're doing is we're mixing matching parts. A lot of it's Audis, granted, but we are going to hopefully have something interesting here. We're starting off, what we're going to be using for the rear struts. The rear struts are 4000. That's just what they are, because nobody can get Quattro rear struts. It's extremely hard. What we're going to do is going to make Quattro struts. There we go. This right here is a hub from the 4000 Quattro strut. I have multitudes of them thrown in piles. This right here is the front hub of a 5000 Turbo Quattro or a 200 Turbo Quattro. This one was from a 9120 valve, which those had UFO brakes. You can tell by where the calipers were attached, because the UFOs are a rotor with an external skeleton, pretty much. instead of a central hub. The hub is around. And it's supposed to build more swept area, but it was an unbelievable debacle. You know, what you're trying to look at is the machining process of what they use that hub for. They use that hub in the 5000, and I believe it was also, they should have been in the Quattro. Yeah, it was in the Quattro, all the way up until 95, I think it was, for the S6. I'm not sure if they changed it, but what we're looking at right here is this is the hub from a 91. If you take a look, the diameter of the actual shaft here is 40, looks like 43 millimeters. We're pretty close as far as my eyes can see it. This is the rear 4000 hub. Wow, no play. Push it in, 43 millimeters. Isn't that interesting? Take a look at this. Next thing we have is the depth, because we want to see the depth of what's going on. Because if it's too much, you just won't see correctly. So we put it like there. What's the depth? It is, as far as I can read, 34 millimeters maybe? That's what you have when you don't have your glasses. You go here, and it is exactly 34 millimeters. The only thing that I can see that we might have a problem with is there's a little extension right here, and a little extension right here. But there, I mean, it's like they're different by like a millimeter, but I think that could be the rust. You know, because what we got here is 56. We have 56 here. Well, actually, it's 55 here. That's the only thing, but I don't think the manufacturing. I think that was just more of a casting issue than a manufacturing issue. What we're going to try now. I only have a couple of these, and I also have to do the ones on the A2s. This is the rear hub from the 91 turbo 20 valve. It was a wagon too. It's virtually identical to that hub. The difference is the spline cut is, I mean, I'm not going to count the splines, but they're like it's like the difference between a fine thread and a coarse thread. Those things are like coarse splines. This is like a fine thread, almost like a A4. An A4 has very fine threads on the internal portions of the hub. Also, they put a step right here. The main bearing on this was the 40 something millimeter, 42, 43 millimeters. And you take a look here, and it just doesn't go. So it won't fit. Even a couple thousandths or 2 millimeters, it just won't go. The hub's useless. What I want to hope is, this is from the 86. The 86 has the same spline shaft as this. So if they didn't change the splines from here to here, this might be something that we can use. So you're seeing it for the first time. I'm going to put it in the press. I'm going to press it out. I'm going to see if it's the same. If it's the same one, we're going to take the 4000 struts out, and then we're going to press in those new hubs. We're not going to use new bearings, mind you, because if you put new bearings in there and you run it around without the CV shafts, the bearings get destroyed. For some reason they do. I don't know why. Everybody always told me that. I never believed them until I did it, and then one of my bearings went in like 2,000 miles, and they were new bearings. I'm not gonna deal with that. So I, always use old bearings. Get it done. Get everything set up, because who knows? Maybe the struts won't even be used. You don't know. I might have to go to coilovers and do a completely different setup. I do not know, because we are just hillbillying it right here. So we're trying to recycle everything. So let me throw these in the press right there, and pop them out, and we'll see if the hubs are the correct size. I don't think we're going to save the bearing. Let's do the other one. The only problem with when you buy pawn shop tools, the spring, the return spring is broken in this. So this is how I have to push it back up. Told you I was a hillbilly. I just couldn't find a spring for it. I don't know where to buy one. If I could, I would. curse this bad Johnny out. Let's measure them up. Same exact. What do we got here? It's off by like one, not even, wait a minute. Am I hitting it right? Oh, wait a minute, I'm not. Well, now I know. The 5000 Quattro rear hub should fit. Hot damn. Let's get rid of those 4-lug rims and let's throw these struts in this thing. I don't believe it. The biggest thing is just getting these things in the press. Yes, I know they make hub pullers, but I'm trying to show it kind of old school, the way we used to do it for a long time. And plus, with these things being in there so long, I think the hub puller will friggin' break. Timber. Let's pop the other one out, then we can switch everything around and set up to push them all in. Oh, now it's the worst part, is putting the friggin' hubs in. Ugh, it's just horrible. One thing I'm trying to do is to support the rear part of the bearing. This one isn't actually going in correctly. But I don't know. Get 2 shits. There we go. That's a little bit better. And I have a socket underneath here. It's pushing on the bottom race is what it is. And this thing is just going to go straight in, hopefully. I mean, the bearings are going to be replaced anyway. This is just so it rolls. That's the only thing. Well, hot damn, it looks like it's in there. If anybody cares, it's 1.25 inches. We are now here having the 4000 Quattro struts turned into 5-lug or Quattro struts by use of 1986 hubs. A couple of problems we're going to run into. First one, with the wider track and the longer CV joints, we're going to need a longer AR. Okay, we'll build it up. We'll just, we'll cut it and we'll bring it forward and we'll make it, so what it has to be. Second thing, when we have the control arm extended out, we can't move the top of the struts out to keep the same camber or to have that adjustability in camber. What we have to do is cut this strut, and it'll be angled, don't get me wrong, it will be angled a little bit, but that won't be for now. We're going to do that later. I don't care if it's angled like this on the floor, but when I cut it here, because all this is sheet metal and weld it onto the strut tube, I'm just going to cut it and just open it up just to bring out, because it's going to be sitting like this right here. I'm going to keep it like that, make a slice, bring it out. The wheel will be 0-degree camber. Ford Motorsport, even in all the literature for the Sierra builds, all stated that if you keep 0-degree camber on your rear wheels for a 2-wheel drive car, mind you, but this is 4-wheel drive, but we can assess that, any advantage is any advantage. They got faster times. And I don't want the tires to wear. So if we have 0 camber and don't have tires to wear and get benefits of coming out of a corner, so be it. We're going to have to do that, because we'll open it up and we'll put metal inside and run it and weld it up like that. Same strut, same everything, same thickness of metal, same all of it. I'll just use another strut. These will be canted a little bit, but there's plenty of room in there to be canted. The next problem will be tracking, where the wheels are going straight down the road. This will not be long enough using the existing ball rod end, or tie rod ball end. This is an updated version. The earlier ones were about this long. They had an adjuster, and then they had the eyelet here for the bushing. Worst comes to worst, I have a set of those somewhere. I will find them And then what we're going to do is take that adjuster, this extended tie rod end, and add it, and we should have enough length in order for us to adjust tracking. If we don't, this right here is the same diameter as this right here and this right here. What we're going to do, this is from the 5000. We're going to put that, and we're going to have an extra inch adjustability right then and there. Easily, no problem. Worst comes to worst, I'll put this on it. I have to shave it down a little bit. It's a uniball, which means it's much better than a bushing. I'd much rather have the original and not have to mess around with it. Let's just, well, I'll go find those other tie rods, but let's first bolt these things up just to get them in the car. I'm just dying to get them in the car. Then we can see what we have to do with the control arms and how much or how long we have to extend them. So let's just do that. One thing you want to do before you put it all back together, oil the snot out of everything. Because you want it to come apart easier than you put it, than it goes together. Well, the only good thing about having this gas door right here is you can put the strut top on. One thing that I've noticed, one thing that we always did, these struts are freaking heavy, way too heavy for what, what they should be, but I guess that's the reason why they lasted so long. This is the way I do it, just because I don't want to kill my back. Wow, it's in. Let's take a look at the control arm. Here is the 4000 strut. This is the original ball joint carrier or mount or whatever you want to call it. As you can see, we now have a wider track. There we go. And I still have to come out a little bit more to be free floating. This is relatively straight. What we got here, seeing how this is out at least another 2 inches, we need to have a tie rod end here that's another 2 inches. Take a look. This is an early 4000 Quattro tie rod end. This right here is a later model. The later model has this dampener or whatever you want to call it right here, this spigot. And this one doesn't, but it has a threaded adjustable sleeve. This sleeve gives us the same, it's the same length as this, but when you use this inner tie or outer tie rod end, hey look, we got almost 2 inches of travel. All we have to do. And as you can see, these things are all rusty. I used a torch to actually get them loose. That's what we have up here in the Northeast. Hey, look at this. Slides right on. There's our extended tie rod end. All factory. There you go. I have to make a plate on the bottom, which I'm going to use this. Where was it? From our garage door opener. This is just a piece of steel. That's all it is. It's pretty thick. I'm just going to hog out the holes a little bit, cut it to where I want it, and it's just going to bolt together. This is not for going out on the road. This is just to roll it across the shop. That's all I'm trying to do. Let me get over. I'm going to put the other tie rod on the other side, and then we're going to work on to the front suspension, because I want to show you what I did there and how to make the 5000 struts, or what I'm going to do with the 5000 struts on the 4000 chassis. Because if you just bolt one up, they'll never bolt up. Here we are at the front of the car. This is the 5000 strut. The 5000 strut uses 6-7 inch diameter spring, where the 4000 uses like a 5-inch diameter spring. I got this out of the pile. This is a Quattro lowered spring, but it's going to suit our purpose just to get the thing on the ground to roll it. That's all we're going to do. But I wanted to at least get the stuff in there and just to see how it looks with the drive shaft. I installed the drive shafts from the 5000. Don't need to see that, you saw I took them off. that just, it'll give me a point of reference. You know, like I said on the back, I don't know whether I'm going to make this a coilover or not, because this is steel. I can always cut this out, put some things. I have some Cosworth coilovers that might go right in there, but I don't really know yet. I got to really look at it. This, I mean, I won't be able to use this strut anyway, but it'll be good just to put it in. What I'm doing is just taking this spring right here, top mount. It's just going to sit. You know, all it is sitting in there, and it's going to put the bolt on it just to have it go down on the ground. That's it. What I want to do though is, one thing we always going to run into a problem with is the ball joints for these things. That's the million-dollar question. What are they? Well, they're 18 millimeters in diameter. I went out there, I checked them, 18 millimeters. I looked on the Quattro. The Quattro is the same thing, 18 millimeters, but trying to get Quattro ball joints is really not, especially down the road, because everybody told me you can't buy the ball joints, and I have a feeling that all the listings that I've seen are for later model ones that are 4,000 Quattro ball joints that they're misinterpreting. That's what I kind of think they are. I have not bought any to see if they work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this strut, seeing how I have two more sets of them, which I don't really mind chopping one up and experimenting. I am going to make this into a 19 millimeter ball joint. I'm taking a drill bit, I'm just running it down. I've already done it on the other one, it works. It's really simple, it goes right through. The reason why is, this is a Jetta Passat ball joint. You can buy these things either Chinesium cheap, or you can still get really decent quality ones. We have to extend the control arms. I'm going to be cutting this control arm off and welding it onto the bottom of a Coupe GT control arm just to give me a rough estimate of where I am. Because when we put it up on the lift, okay, then we'll figure out whether or not we're going to make a tubular control arm, or we're going to graft in the metal that's on this into the Coupe GT if it'll work. It has to be braced good enough so it works. And oh yeah, don't try this at home. This is for off-road only. I guess that's the way it is. But we're making this go-kart, so let me cut that out. I'm going to slice this off, and I'll pull the subframe off of the old Mahari frame that I was doing, because I want to use a completely different subframe on that. That's the Coupe GT subframe that I have kicking around. We'll throw it up inside, and we'll see how it works. Well, it's done. No play whatsoever. That's what we want. Let's go install the strut, then we'll cut this up and install the subframe. I don't want these tight at all. Resistance on. Let's put the subframe up and take a look at the control arms. This is a Coupe GT subframe. As you can see, there's no mounts for the transmission. That's the thing, and the control arms are different. They use different ball joints, different diameter ball joints. But the control arm bushings and pretty much everything else is the same. This is a lot of surface rust on here, but it doesn't really bother me. You know, when everything gets sandblasted and painted, you know, as long as it's usable now, that's all I care about. I have this on the Mahari go-kart frame just because I had it lying around. I didn't know what I was going to use. I know what I'm going to use now, but not this. This is going in the Sport Quattro replica. So I have two tacks here, two tacks here, two here, two here. Cut them off. Let's throw this thing on there. All right, the subframe's on. Not fitted, just on. There's two bushings missing in the back, and the front bushings are completely wasted. But we're going to be putting aluminum bushings in there, but we just need something to put it on the ground because I just need to get this thing on the ground. And I can't stress enough, oil every single thing every single bolt that you put on, because you're taking it off so many times. You might as well make your life easy and have everything come apart. That's the biggest thing. You know, because you know you're going to put it on, take it off, and that's the whole thing, is you just want it to do it easy. That's, you know, just a big thing. We have the Passat control arm right here, and we have the Coupe GT. You put this up here, we're just going to tack it, just to hold it from going in and out. That's it. It's not going to be stabilized. But if we look at it, you know, the CV comes in and out like this, so we want to give ourselves enough margin of error to where we can probably do something with it. So let's try, try right about here. We try right about here. That way, I'll cut right here. It'll give me enough room, and we'll see how it works out. Let me go get the ground. One quick tack, and we're getting really close to dumping this thing on the ground. I'm such a hillbilly. As this fade in shows you, the battery the card filled up on the camera way too early. What I was doing, I needed to get tie rod ends to put on here because it's such a longer tie rod. Ran into a couple problems when I've had a cup of coffee. This is the original tie rod from the 5000. And I'm sitting there looking at it going, well, here's the original tie rod from the Coupe GT. It's pretty much 2 inches longer. I'm sitting there going, wow, isn't that interesting? So what I do, I use the torch, heated everything up, everything's all nice and loose, went to put them in, doesn't work. Couple things. One's really minor. The bolt holes are a larger diameter on the 5000 than they are on the Coupe GT. I think that's a 10 millimeter, and this is a, no, that might be a, yeah, looks like a, oh, almost like maybe a 12 millimeter and a 10 millimeter for the Coupe GT. So, and with the certain bends that are in there, like this bend is a lot more than this. That way it wouldn't clear, and it wouldn't have any rotational movement. All right, what am I going to do? So I went out into the junk pile. The 5000 one, is, pretty much it. So what I found was, I found a ball joint, a tie rod end that looks, which is pretty much 2 inches greater in length than this one. What should it do? It should help me out. So I looked at a couple things. Will it fit on the Coupe GT tie rod? Yes. I took it apart. This is the same thread pitch. So we're good to go at that point. Next thing is, here we are down at trying to get the steering rack to fit on the for these struts. Big thing is that we have a wider track. Generally this is going to be a little bit further out, so what I did is I tested it with this. This is a Subaru tie rod. It's an extra 2 inches. I put it in there, and when this thing's going straight, the other one is cocked out. So the way this steering rack works must be different than the 5000s. The problem was, especially when you use the standard Coupe GT or 4000 Quattro tie rod end, if you sit there and look at it, this spigot right here is, or is the other one. This is the original Coupe GT. As you can see, there's a major difference in them. So what I did was, seeing how I can't use the Subaru one that goes in there because it's just too long, I needed something half the length. Well, half the length is that, so I think the steering might be too different. This right here, it's a used one. I need a new one, but it'll be good to get me, to get it on the thing, not on the ground. This is from a Passat, B3 Passat, and all it is same thing, jam nut, not a compression sleeve. And if we just put this inside here, this thing is pushed all the way over to the right. And it's the same exact pitch. If you go like this, there's no play, so it's the same exact pitch as the 5000. See, we got plenty of movement. So this is actually going to work. If I can get it to stay stationary. Now all we have to do is tack that on there so it'll actually sit on the ground. That was a lot of thought. There was a lot of rummaging through a lot of junk, trying to figure out which tie rod end is going to fit. If I was going to use something that's not going to fit, use something that's going to be too long, too small. It's all just, you know, give it a shot. That's about it. The good thing is we don't have to remount the steering arm for the Subaru ball joint. That's the tie rod end, Subaru tie rod end. So that's a real big plus. What I do is just tack the bottom, and I'm going to end this episode because I want to do something first before I put it on the ground. It's one of those things where I kind of want to get the front end done, and then I'll put it on the ground because I have some interesting wheels that go on this, and I just want to see what it looks, because you need something. This is taking so long. You need to put it on the ground and make it look like there's something there. And then you can put it back up on jack stands and rip everything. Yeah, okay, whatever. You know, just at least it'll give me an end goal, looking at an end goal from all the work that I've done. So I can honestly say, you can do it. I am nothing special. I'm just a hillbilly recycler. And I thank you very much for showing up and just taking the time to look at all my junk parts that I'm putting in. And, you know, it's just like, remember, like all this stuff, you know, this will all be new. Because I consider that maintenance, not building. Until next time, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day. Hi everybody, this is the addendum to the video, because after I did the closing shot, I sat there, went and get cleaned up, came back down, and did the other side, you know, put the other side in. And besides having to find out that I need to shift the motor a centimeter that way, you know, for everything to line up, everything was going equal, and I'm looking to myself going, okay, I increased the track, you know, roughly 2 to 3 inches, you know, is what it is. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it was enough, and these things shouldn't align, you know. I should have to use the wider tie rod. And I'm sitting there going, why isn't it? And I racked my brain, and just like, you know, I got to figure out why, because it's the only way to really figure it out is to really look at everything. So what I did is I used, this is just, it's rough, but I figured it out that I have one of these struts without this hub assembly and on a 4000 Quattro without the hub assembly. So I measured off the bearing surface to the where the tie rod end comes out with a framing square. On the 4000 Quattro, it was roughly 5 3/4 inches, and on this, it was roughly a little over 7 inches. There is your track. So this arm, this hub is further out than this actual strut, than the actual 4000 strut. That's why we can use the Coupe GT inners with Passat outers, and it'll bolt up and it'll track. I had to say that because it just bugged me on not explaining or why that was, because everything else you had to extend out, and this thing you didn't, and that's the reason why we had to use the other control arm, because we used a 4000 strut. You know, that's why the tie rod end, that's why we had to extend the tie rod end. So, hey, thanks for watching the addendum. I'm just going to start work on the front end. That'll be the next video, and how to fit the entire front end with a bar assembly and all that stuff, and trying to make this thing actually look cool enough to put on the ground. All right, thank you very much. Have a good one.